something off the table. I'm really used to being right on the mic, so this is kind of odd being back here. But I want to go ahead and introduce the folks that are going to be on the panel today. We've got Travis Janovich. He is the founder of the multi-million-dollar ticketing company Etix, which was founded back in 2000. Travis, come on up here. Etix processes more than 50 million tickets per year in 40 countries and works with clients in the entertainment, travel, and sports industries. And then we've also got Billy Hardison here, who is come all the way down from Louisville, Kentucky. So everybody come around. He is the owner of Production Simple, a little boutique talent buying and special events promotion company out of Louisville, Kentucky that own Headliners Music Hall. We're special event promotion, alongside venues such as the Kentucky Center, Iroquois Amphitheater, and Waterfront Park. And we've also got Tommy Putnam, who is in Moon Taxi and out of Nashville, Tennessee, that you might have seen around town. Give it up for Tommy. They've got several great records out, and we'll talk about some of the stuff that they've been doing all across the country and festivals and things they've played. And I want to thank all you three for being here today. Go ahead and have a seat if you like. Take a little bit off. All right. So we'll probably do some questions from you guys towards the end of this, but in the meantime, I've got some that we've kind of prepared and talked about, and get a little more comfortable and figure out a little bit more about their companies and their roles in selling more tickets online and that kind of thing. So first off, let's start with Travis down there. We were just wondering how Etix kind of came to be and what brought you to start that online ticketing platform.
First, I was fascinated originally by the idea of printed home ticketing when it was 98. And as I started researching just printed home, I realized very quickly that it would be a delivery method. We were the first people to have a patent on printed home ticketing, so a printable barcode. But became pretty fascinated. I've always loved live events, live music, and so very quickly decided that it would be a great challenge to build a highly scalable web-based ticketing platform. So kind of started from there, and it's still going.
Yeah. Very nice. And Billy, you wanted to hear the same thing about Production Simple, how that came to start, and what it took to start a promotion company there in Louisville, Kentucky.
Just being a big fan of music, I started in 1991, booking a show in the punk rock room, and ended up booking that room. And I was in marketing for public radio in Louisville. We've got 3 great stations and a client, but I was in marketing for about 10 years, and then we started Production Simple in 2005, and bought Headliners in 2010, and we love working with the artists that we work with. And it's a small boutique company, just 4 of us, and having Etix as our ticketing and Rockhouse. In fact, Brian pretty much said everything I was going to say, so I guess I'm done here. I've done this for 22 years, but Production Simple has been the best part of that. And, doing things that we really believe in and working with great people and artists, and as far as ticketing has changed so much since I started, with just hard tickets being shipped and putting them in record stores. Just the resources out there are just amazing now. So it's a new dawn for sure. For I guess 43, I'm kind of the younger part of the old guard of ticketing and concert promotion, but we're hitting a new stride here with these guys. It's great artists playing on too. So.
Well, that I guess brings us to Tommy here in Moon Taxi. You guys recently played Headliners.
Yeah, we were just there, I guess 2 weeks ago or somewhere in February.
Yeah, in February, sold it out.
Sold out a week in advance. Thanks to hard work by some good people.
Good to see some Nashville bands outside of town. Well, and you can go ahead and give us a little background on Moon Taxi as well.
I think we formed around 2006, 2007. We started at Belmont University. We all met there. 2 of us, the singer and myself, went to high school together. Had a band there, moved up to Nashville, started at Belmont, and then everybody else. We just kind of kept doing it until it worked out.
All right. Well, since you've got the mic, I'll go ahead and ask you. You guys have seen a lot of success over the years. Obviously, played Bonnaroo. You've been on Conan. You sold out Headliners there in Louisville a couple weeks ago. How much do you attribute like your success and what's been going on ticket sales wise and fan base wise to your online presence?
I think what happens when you have a larger fan base online is that you're a little bit more validated to things like Conan and venues like Headliners are more willing to book you if you have, let's say, 20,000 Facebook fans as opposed to 150 or 1,000. You're going to get a lot more attention, I think. I think that's one thing that venues, and you might say different otherwise, but you get a lot more attention if you do this kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and you can pass it on to Billy there, but since we were talking about that, like Production Simple, they've been around, I guess, a long time now, and get a ton of experience at the company. And how's selling tickets over the years that you've been doing it, and how's that changed as far as what you're doing now versus maybe even 10 years ago?
Well, to go back to how we look at likes on Facebook and see how much digital presence, there's real and there's false digital presence. I mean, these guys grew it from the ground up. You can sense what's real. You can sense what's real on YouTube by looking in other places and just seeing how some of that just doesn't, I mean, you can feel it even without looking at the analytics. And these guys have done it right. So, and that slow build, that slow growth, it's methodical, and that matters to buyers because, you know, especially if you're an independent company, you want to build history with artists, and you want to do lots of work with them, not just one play. You don't want to be a flash in the pan. So, versus a lot of the mainstream stuff out there that just has no longevity, that's going to come once and go away, and maybe you're just going to have a bunch of 14-year-olds show up in your club, and you're going to sell bottled water, and you're never going to see it again, and you're going to have problems. Working with bands that are taking this seriously for the long haul is what matters to us. So. How ticketing's changed for us over the years, again, it started when we were literally, had a Ticketmaster contract, but we would order, since we didn't own a venue, we would order tickets from, Todd, you might remember StarCap in Florida. Is that ringing a bell? We ordered a hard ticket stock from this little company in Florida, and we put them in record stores and just managed the inventory old school style. It was, over the phone and had wallpaper fax. It was a long time ago, but the biggest change in ticketing I've seen has been this online ticketing has completely changed the game, and I think that's led directly to online marketing being so important. I don't think without online ticketing would online marketing have we'd be sitting here today talking about it.
Well, I was wondering, we've got Etix here, is the largest independent ticketing agency in North America. A lot of things contribute to that success, and I was wondering if you could tell us about some of those things that contribute to the success of Etix, and also give some examples of times you've kind of had some big wins, some of the success stories.
Sure. I think the biggest thing that's going to contribute to our success is basically just staying true to ourselves. I mean, we were very fortunate, I think, to start up when the .com bust happened, so we didn't have a lot of capital to work with. We didn't have, there was never anyone allowed to stream to spend more money. It was always the opposite. We were always worried about running out of money, so I think we had to make really a lot of decisions we had to make. They were literally, if they were wrong, we would have failed. And then as we grew, I think staying true to ourselves and really focusing on the service and there are many ticketing companies out there, and today there's many more. It's becoming easier to start a ticketing company, but I think building relationships with our clients, the service part of it, the reliability of the software, all those things really matter so much. So once you get a client, if you can maintain them and build a relationship and continue to grow it, it's a great business because they're highly unlikely to leave. It's part of kind of you're so integral to everything they do. Basically, today, I feel like that online ticketing, particularly being so big now, we're pretty much the heart of this business and it is revenue stream. So, as far as big wins, probably the biggest one we had is 2003. We won the ticketing to get Fenway Park when they bought concerts back there. That was the 2 nights of Bruce Springsteen, and so it's kind of one of the make or break moments where if we screwed up that show, we would probably be working at McDonald's today. So anyway, that was a huge win for us and really validated us in the industry. One of the big things, and there are many now, but probably the biggest for an incumbent, for an up-and-coming ticketing company, particularly web-based, is always reliability. So, if you're a promoter and they say, geez, we got this show, and, we're risking $200,000, and if you crash, we're going to lose all that momentum, and so you just can't have any crashes. And Ticketmaster, being known for being highly reliable, that was a really big opportunity for us to prove ourselves, and then have as a great reference, that event and that experience for the fans. So that was probably one of our biggest wins. It really propelled us, all the way from there.
Well, and I guess it seems like the reliability and everything that contributed to your success, it seems is kind of based on, again, your relationships with the artists, like you guys were talking about, seeing a band actually grow. Those numbers aren't falsified, and it's a real thing, and I feel like that's the stability you've got there. Do you have any situations where you've had some big wins, and how you guys came across selling tickets at headliners and other venues in Louisville?
Well, our biggest win was at the hands of Etix, and it wasn't the headliners. We actually partnered with AEG and had Mumford & Sons on our waterfront, and they had requested a paperless event, which we all got a little nervous about, but Travis's head sales guy, Ben Weinroof, who's our sales rep, who's great. He, calm hand, came in and said, we can do paperless, it's not going to be a problem. Put the thing up on sale, sold all the tickets, almost all online, although we did offer a little bit of an opportunity for locals to buy through Headliner's box office. And mostly all that was were for people that were nervous about using their credit card. They would come in and we would literally do that for them across our platform. So it was just people that were nervous about the process. But we entered everybody into the venue, no problems. We did have a triage for will call, because it really was a will call. Your credit card was your ticket, and it worked great. And again, with having the ticketing and the marketing hand in hand, and a lot of companies have that. Ticketmaster has that, but the difference here is that it's just as reliable, and the fees are so much lower. And that's what Mumford & Sons were looking for. They were looking for, they knew they could sell the tickets if we did our job to get the word out, but they wanted to make sure that the process was reliable and that the fees were reasonable for the fans. And the fees, Ticketmaster can't touch it. So if you're going to get that level of reliability and customer service, and they had people on the ground to actually check the hardware in real time, we dealt with the problems, they helped us deal with the problems. It just made sense, and it was a great day. I went to that show. And the band was super stoked. They couldn't have been happier. They actually had management out there watching the process and the agent, and said, yeah, it's working. And I know we're not the only ones that did that, but being the ones that have been here in this room, paperless ticketing work, and actually it helps capture. We're talking about the data that you do not collect, that information, and having to pull it from socials. There are some downsides that people talk about with paperless, as far as forcing people into using the tickets that they bought and can't transfer ownership. And I think over time some of those problems can be alleviated. But as far as a promoter collecting data to use for other artists like Mumford & Sons to sell tickets, I had 100% data collection, 100% of 15,000 people. So that was huge. So that was another big win.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about what you've actually done with some of the data you've collected, but I wanted to ask Tommy as well the same question.
Sure. I think as far as promoters and venues go, like we call paperless ticketing, any kind of blowback from high fees is going to be felt by the band, and any kind of customer service malfunction, usually we're going to get the brunt of that. And so, it's really good for us to know that we have a reliable conduit for all that to service us there.
Well, so you got the paperless ticketing, and you're saying that might come back on you. What is something that these venues and promoters can do to make it easier to help you guys sell tickets as a band?
More. I think a good promoter knows what they're going to do really well. They know the market better than anybody else. They're going to pair you with the right opening band. They're going to know what's bots to hit, socially, who the key people. One thing I've seen work really well is with some promoters that they know, like a tastemaker in town, some guy or some girl that's really popular, and really knows how to key in on that person and really make a band grow naturally from just one person becoming a huge fan. That's probably the biggest thing I've ever seen happen, really. And online, they just have to keep pounding everything, social media and all their email database and just everything they have.
Yeah, along with all the promotion you're doing. I mean, typically do you find that being like blogs or radio stations, or is it just whatever they have access to at the time?
I mean, I think people subscribe to music in different ways, and some people might not like you on Facebook, but they'll like they have you got their email address, or maybe vice versa. But more of those things you have, whether you have them on social media like Facebook and Twitter, email, you're going to catch them sooner or later. And if you don't have them, maybe the venue does. And so everybody just needs to be working on all cylinders to really sell as many things as possible.
Well, I was going to ask, Billy, is that one of the biggest hurdles you find in promoting an event, is actually figuring out which avenue is the way to go to get it in the minds of the people you want to buy the tickets?
Well, yeah, every ad plan we put together is customized to that artist to a certain extent. I mean, of course, there's all the traditional marketing you're going to do with radio and print, but in the digital world, you are going to go certain places. If you could know if an artist lends more to a mobile audience to a desktop audience, then you're going to know that, say, La Love It, those fans are going to be enjoying music or doing research more on a desktop or a laptop versus, say, Moon Taxi maybe more on mobile. Well, if it's on a desktop, then you're probably going to want to do more Google Ads advertising because the display is not really going to work on mobile, so that kind of data is important. But bigger than all that, I think it's about artist management and the agents and promoters and venues working together from day one. As soon as the show's confirmed, be on the same page. The promoter and venue need to understand that the artist knows their fan base nationally and knows their product and their art and their craft. And on the other side of that the artist management agents need to understand that the venue owners and promoters, we know our markets. So it's about coming up with a concise message at the beginning and then letting each entity play to their strength. And you don't want to overhammer somebody with the same info from multiple places, and just kind of working together and divide and conquer.
Well, and Travis, along that we kind of heard what the band would say, the venue would say. What kind of partnerships can a ticketing company like Etix, build to add more value to the venues and promoters and the bands?
That's a great question. I think it's almost unlimited today. It was one of the genesis of Etix was online ticketing, and then years ago, and particularly the acquisition of Rockhouse became an online marketing, ticket sales and marketing platform. And today, just we're seeing everything from aggregation to help venues get sponsorships, because we don't have a lot of data about maybe the region compared to one, and so maybe sponsors are much more willing to pay some money if they could have 4 or 5 venues in an area, or maybe a tour with a band. Certainly activations are big, so sort of entity activations. I think maybe the sponsor wants to do something, but there's no one, there's no boots on the ground to make whatever they want to do happen, right? The venue's already busy enough, the band, they don't have anyone extra, so there's other things. And then literally, it's almost a matter of, it's just unlimited. I mean, we're more and more becoming consultants and partners in every single way with all of our clients. As vertical integration happens, and we're getting special just requests and events, and everyone's thinking about how to maximize their fan base, how to maximize the money they're spending, whether it's for advertising or anything else. So it's pretty much unlimited, honestly. It just runs the gamut of everything. Because again, with digital marketing and solid robust ticket sales being kind of the basis, everything else you can imagine these days.
Yeah. Well, I guess with that, what would be your advice to venues, promoters, and bands looking to sell more tickets online, like how I guess would Etix come in and I know Brian's kind of given us a little bit of an overview in his presentation before.
Sure.
How would you come in and help out?
Yeah, I think Brian actually stole all of everyone's thunder up here, so again, thank you, Brian. I think what we see at Etix, and I think it's not only an industry trend, the ticketing industry, it's kind of a trend everywhere, is there's a huge focus on data. Everyone wants all the data they can get. And we boil it down to the word actionable data, which hopefully means to people, hey, this is something I can do something with. So if anything, it's more about keeping it simple, figuring out, aggregating. Looking at who's coming by the venue, what are they spending, what do they enjoy, are they connected to me digitally, are they a Facebook fan, do they follow us, do they open their email, and then grouping those people basically from high to low, the super fan that Brian talked about down to kind of the occasional fan, and then it's really all about taking that occasional fan and moving them up the ladder, whether it's to a regular fan or to a super fan, but it's really important to keep it simple, and if it gets too complex, it's probably not true. So I don't want to make it sound like a dumb answer, but at the same time, it's the blocking, tackling, the collecting email addresses, usually contesting, or anything incentive-wise to get that other person's email address, and then communicating with them, tracking it, seeing how they respond, seeing how they engage, and doing what we can to increase that engagement, so you're having that one-on-one relationship with that fan for the venue. We're the ticketing company, so we're not pro Etix, we're pro headliners, and we're pro moon taxis, and so that's very important as well. We're not trying to build ourselves as the portal brand. We're trying to make sure that the fans are engaged with headliners, are engaged with the act. So,
well, if I could speak to that, it used to be with ticketing, and it's less and less, but Etix came to us, and that's kind of one of the reasons, besides the reliability and low fees, was that they stood in the background behind our website in the same way that people don't come to Headliners is not in a great location. It's safe. It's just not like on a strip with a bunch of other cool clubs and bars and restaurants. Production Simple, what the hell's that? It's just the name of this little company. A lot of people don't even say it right, and that's our own fault for picking the name. But you don't come to see Production Simple, you come to see Moon Taxi. So with the ticketing standing in the background, as I think Ben quoted you years ago to me, is that with a server big enough that you could drive a truck through, this big back end help, and then we're just the room, but this is what you're coming to see. And keeping that simple and direct with that flow chart, if you're doing that, you're going to sell tickets.
Well, and I guess with Etix staying in the background on your personal website, what do you see on other venues or people's websites that are doing the wrong things, posting the wrong information? Not necessarily info, but
it goes back to what Brian was saying. It's about being. I took notes for some of this stuff, and I kept on coming back to the same thing. It's about being clear, concise, consistent, simple, clean, and make sure you know what your message is, and don't deviate from it. And if problems do come up, hit them head on. And if you can get that person in a one-to-one conversation, that's golden. If you can talk to somebody about a problem, then you're usually going to be able to diffuse it. Because if they just think they're talking to the void, they're going to say anything. But all along the way, just being clean and concise. And what I see, cluttered websites. I think like the jam thing, and I didn't even realize that was you all. And I've always wondered how these huge companies that are so much bigger than me, how they manage that online existence. Because I've seen it from some other companies where it is just a mess. It's like, which venue is this? Which show is this? Where are they playing? And sometimes you just check out. Like I'm going to go find I guess it's how some people end up on StubHub. It's because they just can't navigate the site. And that happens a lot. People will call and say, I saw tickets for this show, even for our club. They're $150. Well, they're $15 tickets. But just because somehow they've gotten to the top, they spend a lot of money to get to the top of that search engine. But yeah, I think it's just about being clean and concise, and making it easily navigable. And I mean, again, it's not about dumbing it down. We all have busy lives. Right? Let's get to the point.
Yeah, one click away, let's get to it. I want these tickets, I need to be able to buy them as fast as possible. Well, and Tommy here from Taxi, what do you think, we talked about what you thought artists and promoters could do more for the band. What do you think you guys as artists should do to help sell more tickets at a venue? And how has that kind of changed as you've gotten bigger and bigger, played frat houses to bar room?
Yeah, I think staying relevant and always having something relevant to say online will help grow your fan base. And then when you have something where you need a call to action, like a live show or something, don't be afraid to make a call to action, like put the ticket link on there. I actually heard Brian say something interesting on Music Business Radio on your Lightning 100. He was saying don't be afraid for bands to ask the promoter for their email list from all the people that bought tickets online. And so I was going to ask Billy for.
Take this.
No, but I actually think that's really good advice. So I'm really happy that I learned that.
Yeah. Well, and I guess with the event promotion aspect of that, not just email addresses and everything, but what do you think the next? What do you see happening as like the big trend of how events are starting to be promoted? Whether it be a festival or just a show in town.
I mean, I don't know what's next.
Yeah.
I've always relied on more like guerrilla tactics from the ground up. Like I've always thought that actually having posters out around town is very, very helpful. Digitally, I'm always worried that everything's getting, so convoluted. There's so much stuff out there that it's really hard to even make sense at all. I mean, Facebook's now charging everybody, or they're charging more often for you to actually reach the people that like you. I just heard about that recently, so I don't even know what the point is of having a Facebook page anymore, is if you're not going to be spending money on there to promote your thing. So it's all changing. It's going to keep changing, and somewhere, at the end, we're going to have it all figured out. But I just don't know where it's going. I guess we just have to keep playing ball with all of them. But like Brian said earlier, email list, that's really not going to go away.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have an email. I think kids are getting emails now. Like 10. They've got iPhones now, so clearly they're going to have some kind of email. So I think that's something that's a trend that's going to continue for a little while.
Do you see any in your line of work kind of trending that's helpful for waterfront park or headliners or whatever in town?
My marketing people, I mean, again, we use a lot of traditional advertising as well, and the problem is it's hard to track conversion with a print ad or radio. But if you go back to old school, back when we couldn't track really any data to how people were buying tickets, or at least not accurately, it takes the sum of all parts to sell the tickets. But as far as new trends, we're starting to see Instagram play more of a role. The Facebook thing is kind of scary right now. We don't put a lot of stock in Facebook ads. We believe more in promoted posts, but they change Facebook weekly, daily. So, and I don't know how long it's going to be around as a tool for us. Instagram right now, this community building aspect of it, whether it's false or true or not, it feels more true until they start ramming more advertising down your throat. But what's happening is, we're seeing with Instagram also, it's not necessarily for the show in the moment, which we do use Instagram before a show happens, but it's actually when the show's happening, and that we use the phrase afterglow is what's going to happen after that. And people seem really engaged in Instagram right now, and I think Twitter's going to play a bigger role, potentially Twitter advertising, I'm guessing. Pandora's interesting, we're starting to look at that more for advertising for the bigger shows. But right now, the biggest thing we've done is that we've reorganized our ad plans towards street. Is always, I came up that way too. I mean, posters to me, and it's like, is it posters and handles, or just posters, or just handles? And it really depends on the show. I hate to kill trees, so I'm wearing posters. But sometimes handles is necessary. Well, now we've come up with a term that management companies are accepting, they're digesting, as the digital street team. So we have a social media manager on staff for both companies, and we've reallocated our ad dollars for this person to handle. He is our social media manager, but we've renamed it Digital Street Team. And that was the biggest thing that we've done this year, is to actually have somebody on staff with a chunk of those ads. Because the way we advertise shows is you have your general brand marketing for your venue, but really each show has its own advertising budget, as any buyer or promoter knows. And we actually carve out an amount of money for this digital social media manager for the street team, and that's in addition to stuff like Here and Now and the Facebook advertising, or if we're going to do Google ads, or how we're going to do that kind of digital advertising. He actually manages the posts and stays on top of Twitter and troubleshoots problems and makes sure that everybody's getting the information that's almost as soon as they're asking the question.
Well, I guess with the how it's all changed over the years, and what is trending, what have you seen, like, technology-wise, that you guys either utilize or are looking into utilizing to help sell these tickets in advance?
Well, as Billy mentioned earlier, I think there's a ton of industry trends that are useful in some parts of the industry and others. For example, paperless has been a big deal maybe the last couple of years. John Mayer ran on paperless, and Mumford's done it. This year, Jack Johnson is touring all paperless. So that's one thing that I don't think is going away. I think that the artists are demanding it in some markets or where they can overall. RFID has become very popular, particularly in the festival space. We're starting to see that. I think there's probably 3 or 4 deals we're in the process of right now that venues are looking to utilize it more and more. And again, it kind of comes back to collecting data and actionable intelligence. And it's certainly on paper it looks promising. I don't want to say that it's the future. From a more on perspective, with us, we sort of consciously skipped the whole social craze. There actually were ticketing companies that said they were a social ticketing company, or they were this, or they were that. And because we had real data the whole time, really focused on email marketing and really focused on mobile. And I think for us, generally, that's the biggest trend. Is, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, literally, I get home at night. I'm always online, but I barely open my laptop anymore. I can almost do everything I need to do from my iPhone, or almost, unless I'm looking at like art online or something. I need bigger images, but it's amazing. It's really focusing on mobile and trying to optimize the mobile experience and making it as quick a conversion funnel that Brian talked about, where people can instantaneously buy that ticket, they can get their feedback, they can post to Facebook, they can do everything they do with their mobile device. That's the biggest, I don't want to say, that's the biggest change in our industry that's here to stay, is the online ticket experience is just one buying experience is one mobile.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned those RFID technology. I don't know if you guys know what this is. Does everybody know what this is? Yes. Okay. See, I have no idea. I work in radio. No. It's radio frequency identification tags, which it seems very interesting and completely. I don't know. I mean, it's like Back to the Future to me. Back to the Future 2 right there is coming out for us. And I mean, have you as a venue owner, have you even like looked into that, or?
It gets featured at different industry events, and I've looked at it. We haven't had a use for it yet. We don't have it. It makes a lot of sense for festivals. I think that once the price comes down, it's going to make more sense for one-off shows. But I think the biggest, from my perspective, outside of the data collection, is about volume. To process people through the gates. If they can use it to go to concessions, you're getting those per caps up for the bar sales and food sales and whatnot. I think that it keeps things moving faster, so people can get back to enjoying wherever they're at, and we can get more of their money in the process faster. So it's volume for me.
Yeah. Well, I think we're actually going to go back to Travis. Sorry, Tommy. I don't want to hear you talk anymore. I've known Tommy for years. I'm glad he's up here.
If I can go?
Yeah, you can. You can just get out of here. So I was wondering, Travis, what's some of the most surprising benefits to selling these online tickets in advance? What are some of the things that you're seeing that are really helpful to either an artist, a venue, or your company as well?
I mean, I'd probably let Billy or answer this question, probably the best answer, but I think number one still is money in the bank, right? You've got someone coming, and that's not surprising, but rather obvious benefit of it, particularly if it's an outdoor show, there's a weather risk or something where you don't have the money in the front. And The other ones would all kind of be around I think the data aspect of it. Number one, with all the social tools, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook or even Pinterest, that there's to actually use a quote from Joe because it makes me sound smart. But he always says nobody shares a credit moment of one. So I think one of the best sort of our marketing is to have someone buying a ticket and telling other people about it, right? It makes other people want to go, oh wait, Billy's going to the show, he got his tickets, and whether they hear about it through Facebook or through Twitter or whatever, there's a surprising lift that comes, and it's it's kind of a snowball rolling down the hill, right? The more people who do that, and the earlier they do it, the better off, the better the sales are going to be. So that's probably the biggest kind of, I don't know if that's surprising, but the more surprising benefit. I mean, obviously, if I'm taking $100,000 risk on a show and already $70,000 in the bank a month out, that's what I'm happiest about.
So I guess next we're kind of going to see what kind of information do you typically look for, value the most, I guess, from these online ticket sales that you see. I mean, I know the email address is always good, but do you typically use the gender, age, like any of that? Does that stuff matter to you, or are you just selling tickets?
I mean, there are stats that are important. Depending on the size of the show and which venue, some of the bigger shows and headliners, and when you get bigger than that, it's where the people are. And we ran some numbers actually pre-Etix, I want to say 2008, and this was Ticket Web at the time. We discovered we didn't own headliners yet, but just for headliner shows in general, we found that 50% of our online sales were from 50 miles or greater from that location. So we knew how much people were traveling in. It might just be a 20-30 minute drive, but they weren't literally in the neighborhood. Headliners Music Hall itself is kind of in the uptown area between the Highlands and Crescent Hill, which is kind of hipster area. You kind of got a pretty good idea who's going to be around there. And we found, again, that a lot of these people were traveling. And it actually made us start pushing radius clauses on our offers with agents. And I don't push radius clauses. Does everybody know what a radius clause is? I don't necessarily push them to make sure that Cincinnati doesn't get the show. I do it, maybe I shouldn't get the show. Because I know that I can't necessarily, if I'm talking about a $10,000 artist or higher, these two markets, somebody's going to get hurt or both of us are going to get hurt.
Yeah.
So location is a big deal. But the other biggest stat is just kind of which is more digging a little deeper, is what's the genre of music, to use that so you're not, with the email list, you're not hitting people too hard all the time, having them opt out. That's the worst thing, is having opt-out rates. So, when you're talking to when you've got a Moon Taxi list, you're making sure that you're dealing with similar artists. You don't want to go too far with that, and once a month or something, you do want to hit your full list, because, like myself, I like all kinds of music. So you don't want to be left out and not knowing about a Moon Taxi show. But when you're going to get into some special offers or some special news about a release of a new song or something leading up to a show, you can hit that particular list that you know that you're going to get kind of genre specific with ticket buyers.
All right, Tommy.
I'm ready.
All right, good. So that's we're trying to ask here about your audience. So what is something that, as a band or as an artist, that you would really look for to know about your audience? Like, what would that stat be that would help you? I guess with an album release, with the show in town.
We have two digital people that work with us. I can't remember the name of their company. TJ and Ushida from LA, and I had a conversation with them recently about this exact thing. I was like, they're trying to aggregate our Facebook and email list and all our social media. And I said, well, what kind of stuff can we know about them? I wanted to know, one, how much money they made, maybe, and then what their favorite colors are, what their buying habits are. Well, we can't really get that kind of information. All we can really do is figure out where they live. So, as far as I know. So, I kind of track our website hits daily, Google Analytics, and I see where people are hitting us from where. And what that'll do is, if I see a spike and say like Omaha, Nebraska or something, well, that'll let me know that maybe we've got a radio ad over there. Or maybe it's time we should go play in Omaha, Nebraska. press now. God forbid. But you know, like just knowing those kind of things, knowing where people are hitting you, and all of a sudden it comes out of nowhere, you know, hey, maybe we need to go play San Francisco, which we did this year. So we started getting a lot of hits and traffic coming from California, and it was due to a couple radio ads, so we went out there and played and had some really good shows.
Well, I guess at this time I was just going to see if anybody had any questions that they'd like to ask the panel. Is there anybody out there? No? Yeah, go for it.
So there's always been kind of a disconnect between the primary and secondary market where Ticketmaster has been doing a move towards paperless ticketing, but then StubHub says, hey, that's definitely going to hurt us, so they put together their $100 million fan first initiative to block that. So in the state of New York, we recently saw legislation outlawing paperless tickets. So where I'm going with this is like, from Etix's perspective, what do you guys see legislation-wise affecting you? And then from the venue perspective, when we talk about the paperless ticket versus a secondary ticket, is the goal to sell out an event or to actually fill up that venue? Because you'll see a lot of events sold out, but there's so much inventory in StubHub, you get to the event and it's a fairly empty event.
From our perspective, just from pure technology, we know we have to have it, and we try not to, or we're not really engaged in politics. It's funny you mentioned New York. One of our clients is New York State Fair. They have massive concerts, Jason Aldean, Lou Bryan, 10 nights of concerts, and I mean, literally the first year we won that deal, it was supposed to be had to be paperless, and then it had to not be paperless, and we had to post the available tickets, quantity, some way. No one could follow what the heck we were even supposed to do. So having kind of that bad taste in our mouth, we look at it as more as a technology that it's many things kind of, one of the arrows in our quiver. If the man wants it, if the location, if the politics are there, that the support is great. We just had to have it, but don't really get into the true politics of it from that standpoint.
I don't know if I want the mic for this question.
No? Okay. No.
Not really online so much, but the whole idea about ticketing fees, I know Etix has a very nice low one, Ticketmaster is very, very high. If you consider from a venue standpoint saying no fees and just put one, take all the fees out of that, is that a bad idea? You incorporate all the fees.
Well, we don't get into politics. We're more on the technology side.
Thank you. That's a good answer, right?
I mean, we do offer a no fee option, and that's probably higher than my pay grade to think about what it would take to, other than doing the way the Ticketmaster tells you what the fees are. So yeah, they tell you what the fees are, and they're still too high. So, I was looking at a Tegan and Sarah show that's being sold through Ticketmaster, and after the fees for a club show, it's $49.50. So fees or no fees, at the end of the day, what you're paying for the tickets, just keeping that price down. Because if we make it all in one price, it's still, they're performing a job and they need to be paid for that. People call and say, what are these convenience fees? I'm like, well, it's how convenient is it for you to drive over to my club with cash in your hand and buy a ticket? It's not convenient at all. Then buy them online. That's why there's convenience fees. So I try not to be that snippy about it, but that's what I'm thinking. Not the customer service, but we offer for every show we do a no fee option. In fact, we have a record store that they allow us to consign some tickets to, but they even put $1 on it. They have to. Yes, they're getting traffic, but there's a certain risk to managing that inventory, and if they come up missing money or tickets, we're going to stick it to them. So pay it up. You lost some tickets, pay for them. So they charge $1. But is your question more about should those fees just be completely transparent and added into the ticket? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm a promoter.
Okay.
I know kind of how it works. I was almost interested in saying, well, because it's paperless, it's less. But really, the ticket printing fee is very high.
No, exactly. I think we pay 10 cents per, and here's the thing, we pay 10 cents per ticket that we print, we don't charge that to the consumer. That's an internal fee, and it's based on tickets that are sold. You know, if I burn back inventory, I don't get charged for that. So, yeah, that's the ticket printing's the negligible part. It's just all the rest of it.
I mean, the thing that just drives me absolutely nuts is everywhere you buy a purchase, tax is always added, except on a ticket.
Except
The ticket is actually,
all
the tax
the
on the ticket is
devices.
included in the ticket price, which is crazy. I mean, that's completely different than the customer buying experience.
which is where you and I have to deal with. We pay, you know, we all pay the taxes, you know. So, but well, it comes. It's a show cost.
Yeah, it comes out the top, but yeah. Yeah, I don't settle shows anymore.
Tommy did that for a long time.
I did.
All right, anybody else? Yes, in the back.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Tommy some of the tactics that y'all use to increase your email database, give away content, and Billy, during the show, what creative things have you seen other bands do to get people to grow those email databases?
One thing we've done recently, the reason I did this, I haven't asked you actually a bunch of them today, he's 2 years old, but he always asked me what my favorite animal was. So I asked what your favorite animal is on our email list, and a ton more people started writing down. It's hilarious, they went octopus, whale. But there's something interesting, I guess, like they're more like, well, I want to move text to my favorite animal, so I'll write down my email. That's just what I'm thinking. That's the only creative thing I've ever done. Yeah, and I mean, sometimes like people obviously write down fake emails a lot. They're illegible. Yeah, I mean that's a tough thing. Sometimes they won't even do that. They'll just write down a phone number and say have Trevor call. Like it's just you never know what you're gonna get there. But yeah, I think that's the only creative thing I think I've ever really seen. I thought about asking other bands like, hey, maybe we can trade off the email list, but I feel like that would just piss everybody off. So, and it's like Billy said earlier, we're trying to keep everything tried and true. You don't want any fake fans out there. So,
Building on what you said in the minute, Trevor said
Billy?
you said you had 100% email from.
Well, yeah, I mean, paperless, I mean, there were a handful of cash sales that we really pushed because we knew we were going to get some pushback from the market that we forced, we asked, we couldn't force it, but asked management and the agent to allow, but, it was 95% of the sales were paperless, and we got basically the data from every one of those because they were buying their tickets online, and you have to enter your email address, and then your credit card is your ticket. So we were able to capture, out of 15,000 tickets, a lot of email addresses. So.
Not for every ticket. For every ticket.
Well, for every ticket, that's correct. We did not have 15,000 email addresses because there was a 4-ticket limit. So, if somebody bought 4 tickets, we got 1 email address for that person. Correct.
Anybody else? All right, well, I just wanted to thank y'all for being here, and I want to thank these guys for being up on the panel. Tommy, here in Noon Taxi, they've got a record out on Mountains, Beaches, Cities, and they've also got an EP, West 56, and they've got a new video, just shot, Morocco, coming out soon. Also, Billy here, Production Simple. They've got some big shows coming up in Louisville at Waterfront Park. They got Skrillex, May 26th, and then Willie Nelson and Allison Krauss from Union Station, featuring Jerry Douglas on June 6th. That'd be a great co-headline, Skrillex and Willie Nelson. Nightmare for a promoter. Yes. And then Travis down there, Etix, about to launch a huge overhaul to their website.